Another day in the life of watching movies. So today, I'm going to be re-watching a film that I remember really hating, and that, of course, is Home Alone 4: Taking Back the House. So, I wonder if my opinion on the film is going to change or not. Well, let's find out from this rewatch, shall we? Because I'm going to be watching it on television right now. Luke, don't watch it! Future me, what are you doing here? I'm here to warn you about Home Alone 4. Please don't say it's one of the worst films ever made. You're going to really hate it. Oh, you were here to warn me about that film, weren't you? Of course. Well, there's no point in arguing you because I'm going to watch it on my television, so I'll give you my remote. Oh, okay, well, thank you very much, Luke. You're doing the right thing. He has no idea that I have another way of watching the film, because not only did I have it on my television ready, I rented Amazon Prime, meaning I can watch it on my iPad. So I'm going to give it a watch now, guys. What an absolute waste. Oh my goodness. Hey everyone, Lucamus Prime here. So, it is now time for me to do my review, sharing my thoughts on what is the fourth installment of one of my favourite Christmas franchises of all time. And this is the fourth installment that, in my opinion, should not exist whatsoever, because to me there's only two films of this franchise. This is one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life, and it's time for me to trash talk it. And that, of course, is none other than 2002's Home Alone 4: Taking Back the House. Oh my god. So, when it comes, of course, to how this film was made, so this film, of course, was based on characters by John Hughes, rest in peace, but was not actually written by him. It was written by two people, being Deborah Frank and Steve L. Hayes, and was directed by Rod Daniel, may he rest in peace. And so, when it comes to how this film was made then, so obviously John Hughes did not write it, and unlike the previous movie Home Alone 3, which I've already trash talked, which featured new characters and a plot that was completely standalone to the first two films, this film brings back the characters from the first two films, but guess what? It recasts all of them. And this was definitely, in my opinion, a really bad move. So, and when it comes to production, despite the film being set in Chicago, guess what? They never filmed it there. They actually filmed it in Cape Town in South Africa. So is it any wonder that the locations felt so out of place for Chicago? It's because they filmed it in the wrong country. Like, Chicago's in America, not South Africa. So, when it comes to how film, of course, was released, it was released direct-to-video, not in cinemas, on November 3rd, 2002, originally on ABC. And when it comes to reception, this film has had tons and tons of negative reviews, including from the star of the first two films, Macaulay Culkin, who was less than impressed with this movie. And you know what? I can't blame him whatsoever, because I definitely agree with him on that. So, when it comes to my reaction to this film, so I have seen this film many times in my life, unfortunately. Many times when I was a kid, and back then when I was so young, I didn't really know how films worked, really, and I was so silly when it comes to you know, what I thought of films, really, because I used to love lots of bad films, guys, when I was a kid, and nowadays, as I said, I consider them to be bad. And this film is definitely one of them, because I used to love this when I was a kid, when I was really, really young. But unfortunately, as I've got older and older, I've noticed lots and lots of problems, and I now really regret liking it, because now I absolutely hate it! Like, this is one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. Not just one of the worst Christmas movies, one of the worst films I've ever seen in general. Like, if I thought Home Alone 3 was bad enough, this film in comparison is total garbage from start to finish. Like, this film is an absolute joke compared to the amazing first two films, and also the bad third one, but at least that one is more watchable than this trash. So, when it comes, of course, to if there's any redeeming quality I could say about this movie, one that I would definitely say is that the character, Mr. Prescott, the butler, to me is the only likeable character in the film. The only one I can tolerate. Especially when, of course, he's revealed to be a good guy as well. In my opinion, he's the only good character in this, the only likeable one, and Eric Ava did a very good job playing him in this. Prescott was my favourite character in the film for what it was worth. And I guess as well that the house that Kevin is in is also somewhat cool, I guess, nice and big, and his bedroom is also pretty awesome because there's lots of cool things in there, lots of toys and games, really, and a nice big bed. So I guess that's something redeemable, but those redeeming qualities I've said don't save a film because they could have been used in a much better film than this garbage. Because now we get to the bad qualities. So, my biggest issue with this film, as you have probably guessed by, of course, how I think there's nothing good about it, in my opinion, aside from those very few redeeming qualities, which unfortunately don't save the film, I absolutely hate the entire recasting of the characters because this film brings back the McAllisters and one of the burglars from the first two films, and that is Marv, not Harry. Because Harry only gets a mention in this and doesn't even appear because Marv's accomplice with him is actually his wife called Vera, played by Missy Pyle. So when it comes to McAllisters, I absolutely hated what this film did to Kevin. In my opinion, they massacred such a great character from the first two films. Like, I can't believe what we did, and he was now played by Mike Weinberg, and I think he was a massive miscast as a character because he looks completely nothing like Macaulay Culkin. Like a different hair colour, different face, completely different. Not even a single amount of likeness towards the character from the first two films. And personally, I found Kevin in this film really unlikable and annoying. I couldn't stand him. Like, I can't believe they masked such a great character. Because if you guys saw my reviews of the first two films, I talked about how likeable Kevin is in those two films and somewhat relatable as well. Whereas in this, he absolutely sucks. And also as well, I also hated the casting of Kevin's parents as well in this because, just like of course, Mike Weinberg, the castings for his parents looked nothing like John Hurd, rest in peace, for Peter McAllister, or Catherine O'Hara as Kate McAllister. I thought Jason Begg was a miscast, in my opinion, as Peter McAllister because he looked entirely nothing like John Hurd. And also, in my opinion, this film made Peter McAllister a lot more unlikable than he was in the first two films because I thought he was somewhat unlikable in the first two films because he wasn't really on Kevin's side much in those, and he was mean to him. But in this, I couldn't stand him whatsoever. Like, just everything I would not want in a father character right there. Like, in my opinion, this film ruined Peter McAllister. And Kate McAllister, in my opinion, was also bland as hell too, and also, in my opinion, more unlikable than she was in the first two films when, of course, she didn't believe Kevin when he got bullied by Buzz. Yeah, Claire Carey, in my opinion, was a miscast as well, in my opinion, just like Reba McAllister's. And speaking of Buzz, I also hated what this film did to Buzz. He's now playing this by an actor called Gideon Jacobs. And he, in my opinion, in particular, was a massive miscast because one thing this film gets completely wrong is the continuity. Because if you recall Buzz in Home Alone 2, right, he's obviously getting older due to Devin Ratway aging, and also his voice broke as well, compared to how he sounded more high-pitched in the first one because he was younger. But in this, he's somehow aged backwards into a kid again. So I don't understand what happened, and I think Gideon Jacobs was a miscast in that sense. And Buzz, in my opinion, was even more unlikable than he was in the first two films, I must say. Like, just an insufferable character right there. And I also did not like Megan in this. I thought she was also annoying as well. And what's annoying is, at the start of the film, she and Buzz have their disagreements and arguments, of course, because he turns off her music when she's rehearsing. And he puts on his loud music, which annoys her. But then they bully Kevin afterwards, so she's just, in my opinion, a stupid, insufferable character. And Chelsea, who also, in my opinion, was also miscast too. Nothing like Hilary Wolf in the first two films. Like, these castings looked nothing like their original counterparts. And now, on to as well, another insult for this film is most definitely, as you guys have probably guessed by the returning burglar I mentioned, Marv. Oh my god. This film completely ruined Marv, in my opinion. Now played by French Stewart, who, in my opinion, was a terrible miscast for a role, because he was nowhere near as entertaining or as funny, in my opinion, as Daniel Stern for the first two films. And speaking of Daniel Stern, he was actually offered the chance to return as Marv for this, but he immediately declined to return after reading the script because, and I quote, he called it an insult, total garbage. And with that, he has my absolute respect, and I couldn't agree more on that, because this film is exactly what he said, total garbage. It's an insult to this great franchise. But French Stewart, in my opinion, was a massive miscast, and the writers for this film also made a massive mistake, because despite this character apparently being Marv, The character is literally wearing the clothes of Harry. You know, the same, you know, grey coat and the same hat. Like, that's not Marv, it's Harry. And Harry only gets mentioned in this, and that's it. We don't know what happened to him. Like, that is just, in my opinion, ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense. So this film, in my opinion, completely butchered Marv a lot, alongside the McAllisters. And also, as well, I was not a fan of Vera in this. I was played by Missy Pyle. I mean, I like Missy Pyle in other things, but I really did not like her character in this. Her character was just so annoying. Definitely, in my opinion, a worse, like, sidekick character than Marv was to Harry in the first two films. Was just so annoying. Like, and it's not really saying much, but I'd even say before Criminals and Home Alone 3 over Vera and Marv, in my opinion, too. But it's not saying much because I hate that film, but still. She was just an annoying character. And also, as well, when it comes to new characters, I was not a fan of Natalie, played by Joanna Going. Like, because I thought she was very annoying in this, and such a whiny because she cried a lot. Oh my god, she was so annoying. And I just couldn't stand her in this. And I especially hate how she threatened Kevin after, of course, the party where she was about to announce her engagement to Peter. Like, and she threatened to have him out of the house. Like, that, in my opinion, was just going way too far and harsh. Like, goodness me. Like, in that scene, I actually felt sorry for Kevin, even though it's not so much because I hated the character in this. But still, I feel Natalie was just so annoying and a whiny who screamed all the time, really. I couldn't stand her. Especially how she couldn't believe Kevin, yet the signs of the burglars being there was so obvious. Like, because when we watched this film last night for his trash talk, I was raging so much at how bad it was. And also, as well, I was not a fan of Molly, who was, of course, the maid at the mansion, played by Barbara Babcock. Because I personally think that her character was terrible, because it's revealed that she's actually an accomplice, being the mother of Marv. But, like, oh my god. The problem with that is, there's no hints prior to the reveal that she's Marv's mother, whatsoever. Like, she only mentioned she's got a son, had a similar mind to Kevin, but Marv is nothing like Kevin. Oh my god. So with that, you'll have no idea that she's actually the accomplice, because she builds up to being like a friendly character who's the maid at the mansion, who's loyal to Natalie, but no, it turns out she's a bad character all along. Like, oh my god. Like, this film is just terrible. And I thought she was just nasty as well, in my opinion, too. And the reveal of her being an accomplice just did not work for me in the slightest. It was, in my opinion, a dumb move. Like, they basically took a cliche of a character who we think is a bad guy but is actually a good guy and ruined it by making him in reverse and not making any sense. Like, what an absolute joke this film is. And I must also add as well, aside from, of course, a bad character, at least in this, and I must also say the story is absolutely stupid because, and in my opinion, much worse than Home Alone 3, because in this film, just like Home Alone 3, Kevin, despite the title, is once again not Home Alone. Because he spends pretty much the entire movie in Natalie's mansion, where he's never alone whatsoever. Because even when Peter and Natalie go out, he's got Prescott in the house and Molly as well. So he's never home alone once in this whole film. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And it's just so dumb. Like, it's only Home Alone in the title only, just in name, because this is anything but a Home Alone movie. Just like how 3 is too, as well. Like, they should just simply call this film Take It Out of the House, not have it as a subtitle to a Home Alone film. They should go into Home Alone 4 and put Take It Out of the House instead. Because this film is an absolute joke. And not only that as well, but the story as a whole, like, even when it's not a Home Alone film, if you pretend it's not a Home Alone film, the story is just so stupid because there's tons of plot holes everywhere. Like, I already talked about how it's so easy for the characters to have found out that Kevin was innocent, but they didn't spot the easy signs and not believing him. Like, and there's loads of inconsistencies too, such as really bad editing. Like, don't get me started on the scene where Prescott sees Kevin on his security cameras and Kevin screams, but then they cut it too early to Prescott saying, "What are you doing here?" And Kevin just starts screaming just like that. That's it. Like, that is, in my opinion, just so stupid. Oh my god. Like, the editing in this film is just so terrible. Like, this is every problem I'd have with direct-to-video films in a nutshell. Then again, I've seen better direct-to-video films than this trash. Like, it's just an absolutely terrible movie from start to finish. And I also, as well, didn't like the soundtrack in this, composed by Teddy Castellucci. In my opinion, it was not a good choice of music for this film. Like, it just felt so out of place for this film. It could have been used in a much better film than this garbage. And not even featuring the iconic theme song by John Williams, because While I hate Home Alone 3, at least that had John Williams' theme at the start of the film. This one does not. It just has a very cringe theme instead, which plays several times in the film, and I just can't stand listening to. Like, even as a kid, I felt this one was missing something by not including the iconic theme song by John Williams. Like, that, in my opinion, was just so stupid, how it didn't include any, like, sign of music. And this further helps me suggest for this film, despite featuring characters from previous films, is not connected to them. When it comes to continuity, I've already mentioned, of course, how Buzz has aged backwards, but also, if you guys recall Kevin's age in the first film, of course, he's 8 years old, and then after that in Home Alone 2, he, of course, says, I'm 10 years old, here's my life. Yet, in this film, he says he's 9. So, despite being a fourth film, after what's possibly the first 2 films, they got Kevin's age wrong. So, I have no idea if this film is actually a sequel to those 2 films, or is in its own timeline. For me, I like to pretend it's in its own timeline because I want this film as far away from the first 2 ones as possible, because I think it's absolute trash and doesn't deserve to be part of this timeline whatsoever. To me, there's only 2 films in this franchise, 2 of them, and that's it. No more, no less. And I must also add that the traps in this, in my opinion, are also a joke. You barely get any of them as well in this. There's barely any traps whatsoever. And the traps you get in the film are just so stupid and inconsistent and way too cartoonic. No one as believable or as funny as the first 2 films' traps, in my opinion. And I must also add that despite this film's attempts at humour, I never laughed once when I rewatched it last night because it was just so insufferable. I mean, what I will say is, if I wasn't rewatching it for you guys' benefit, I'd have probably switched it off really early in because these characters are so insufferable to watch and the story is just so stupid and I must also say boring as well. And what's also stupid is, this film is 89 minutes runtime, right? And it feels way longer because how boring it is. And it's literally 89 minutes of pure torture from start to finish. Like, this film is just an absolute joke, in my opinion. Like, just so terrible. And if I wasn't watching it for you guys' benefit, I'd have switched off so early into it. Like, it's just terrible and just such absolute pain to watch. Like, it's just genuinely unwatchable. Like, just absolute garbage. And just horrible, in my opinion, compared to the iconic first 2 films, which are always an absolute pleasure to watch from start to finish. This one, on the other hand, absolutely sucks. So, when it comes, of course, to what I think this one in summary, to me, it's absolute trash and just one of the worst ones I've ever seen in my life. And apart from those very few different qualities, such as, of course, Natalie's mansion looking pretty cool, and especially Kevin's bedroom with all those things in, like the games and the bed, which is nice and big, and the toys and all that. And Mr. Prescott, in my opinion, being the only likable character in the film. Like, there's nothing good about this film because the story is stupid, it's not funny, the main character isn't even Home Alone despite the title, and the villains also, in my opinion, suck as well. Like, it's just an absolute joke, and there's tons of plot holes too. Doesn't make any sense how Prescott froze so quickly in a freezer like that. Like, he wouldn't turn into an ice cube like that. That is just so stupid. You can tell how this film is so cartoonic because of that. Then again, I even as well think if this one was animated, it still suck as well because of the insufferable characters. But yeah, this one was just an absolute joke. So, in summary then, if I was to give this film a score out of 10, like I said, to me there's nothing good about this movie apart from very few different qualities I said, which in my opinion didn't save the film and could have been used in a much better film than this garbage. I will give this film most definitely 0 out of 10. If I could give it below 0 out of 10, of course, well, but to be specific, 0 out of 10. Screw this garbage all the way. It's just insufferable. Now I think we have one more film to rewatch, which is Home on the Holiday Heist, which I've not seen since I first saw it when it first came on TV in 2012. One of my opinions changed or not. Well, I'll find out in the next trash talk, won't I? Because I remember really hating it. So, this is me doing my trash talk of Home Alone 4, guys. So, you know the drill. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to tell me in the comments what you guys think of Home Alone 4. If you've seen it, let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, be sure to join Team Pan by pressing subscribe to come in the future. And Merry Christmas, you filthy animal, and have a Happy New Year.